So we're ready to go on to the assembly, and one of the things I'd like to take advantage of is the mate references. So let's pick an edge, and under reference geometry, mate reference, we're going to let it pick default and any, but then I need to check the properties. So right click on piece, and I want to make sure that it is unsuppressed for all configurations. Sometimes that works, sometimes it doesn't. But when we do the 10 by 10 or the 10 by 15, at least that much should be there. All right, so we'll close that out, and I'm going to do a new assembly. And the base, the plate web is a good base component. So we'll bring it in, let it open. Orientation looks okay, so we'll go ahead and select OK. And then we should probably look at the picture real quick, because after that, we need to go back one. No. We have the drive link, the center link, and then the rocker link. All right, so if we hadn't applied the mate reference to the peg, it would be along the same lines as what we're doing with the links. So I want to insert the drive link, and if I hover, there's no snap or applying of mates, so we'll have to do those manually. All right, so a select on the cylindrical face, select the cylindrical face, and we'll go concentric. They kind of interfere, so a left click on the part, drag up and down, we'll get it clear, and then I can select on a planar and select on the planar face and go coincident. So at this point, this is still free to move. I'm not overly concerned with it being able to rotate. And when we bring in the, well, it's called the rocker link, but I want to illustrate the renaming. So let's go ahead and insert components. We'll bring in the rocker link. I want to make sure I am picking for the center link. And we can open it, and it hovers, and we can kind of line it up, but that's not going to be good enough. And then it didn't do it anyway. So if it's on that side, it's going to run into the plate anyway. So let's go concentric, and the order of the mates isn't really that critical. It's as long as they get in there, and you can put them in whichever order you need, that makes sense. All right, so the rocker link, center link configuration, I can now hold down the control button, left click on the mouse, and drag in that instance, but that's going to be a center link. But because we configured this, it's going to switch over to the rocker link. If you did not make the configurations, then go ahead and insert the components, bring in the rocker link, and it's going to be the same process to apply the mates. All right, so we got concentric. Oh, and I went into the paperclip and got the insert mates, so I don't have to do the control button. And I am looking for my cylinders, and we line those up, and we call that looking pretty good. All right, so advantage of the peg then being in a configuration will be to insert the components, bring in the peg, and because we're at this stage, I'm making sure that it's not going to the depth. If I look over on the property manager, I have peg 10 by 15, going to hover and then hit the tab so that it reverses direction. That's the advantage of the mate reference. If you didn't create the mate reference, bring the peg in, align it concentric, align it coincident to the faces. Probably the only thing we'd have to decide is, do we want it to be to lock that rotation. So we'll see that in a minute. So I'm doing the hold down the control button, left click, drag, hit tab with my index finger, let go of the mouse button, let go of the control button. Okay, a lot going on there. So sometimes it's easier just to drag it in close and apply the mates manually. All right, one more on the peg, tab, let go, except we want to switch to the 10 by 10 and the one that I always forget to hit the check mark. And then last, and so that one did not pick up the mate reference, or at least it doesn't appear to have picked up the mate reference. So would be interested to see if it is showing. So it is showing as suppressed in the folder underneath that configuration. So I'm going to go ahead and apply. And coincident. And well, that was the last one, so it's not like it's really that big of a deal, but let's right click and open it. And even though I told it that I did not want it to be suppressed, like I said, sometimes well, most of the time it really pays to go make sure that that suppression checkbox gets applied to all of the configurations. So if I were to go to the default, mate references are there and there and there. So if it was suppressed, we'd go back and uncheck that box. All right, so a quick save to make sure. And now I would like to just make sure that whatever I'm starting off with is going to stay static. So in the assembly, the configuration kind of is going to drive my um, my locations, my suppression state. So this doesn't move. The pegs are still able to rotate. So I suspect that if I go back and I find concentric, 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 those should be good enough to lock the rotation. And what I would want to check then is if I suppress the angle, everything still moves. And then I can go back and unsuppress the angle, and we're at that position. So I want this to stay static so that it does not do anything strange until I want it to. So we're going to save this, and we can save all. And so this will be the P5-12 assembly. And actually, you should just name it the rocker assembly. All right, and the custom properties that go with this, well, weren't really given one, so we'll just give it the project name. Put in my initials, put in a date, apply. And again, this is the optional part, is if you are going to start tracking your metadata, building this out, because this is not really going to drive on the configuration, you could put everything in the custom if you wanted to populate it. If not, we'll pick those up and deal with them later. All right, so I mentioned that the rocker link is the issue that I would probably just name link. We could have included the drive link and just had one part called link with those three components in it, and that would be fine. So, we have to make those decisions fairly early on. And typically what happens is that even after I close this, SolidWorks is holding this open in memory. And that part of it becomes a little bit of an issue in that when we go to do the rename, so let's just try it. So the rocker link, I want to show more options, go to Solidworks, rename, and link. All right, so the where used, I haven't created a drawing yet, but if I had made the drawing, it would also show up in the list and update those items. So when I hit OK, well, it actually did it. So we'll take it. And then when I open up the assembly again and let it rebuild, there is the link with the center link as a configuration and the link with the rocker link configuration. So we'll just do a quick save and let that update as well. All right, so when I did the alternate position on 510 or 511, whichever one that was, I created the configuration and changed the angle before I went into the drawing. Now on the demo and previously we've done different title blocks, so if you want to use the A landscape or you've created a title block, this is the one that was built in the demos. So pick up this sheet. I'm going to be looking for little changes that I need to make along the way, and then corrections that need to be made in the to the drawing. So I do not have, at this point, I do not have an exploded view. So let's look at the Control tab, and we'll pull up the rocker assembly. And right now the default is my static, and typically the default will be a static assembly. So I want to go to an exploded view, and if I pick these in order of height, so I got the link, got the peg. Actually, I wanted both pegs first, and then the link, and then we would go to those two links, and then to those two pegs. All right, so just kind of thinking through the process that when I drag these out and the automatic spacing takes over, we can see what the different results are based on the coordinates, and then also be able to drag that out a little bit. So it looks pretty good. I think the 2 inches maybe could go back to an inch. All right, so not terrible. We'll go ahead and pick that. Looks like I didn't set a material for the pegs. So if I go back and open that, we're going to start to see the custom properties show up there. And so I am in the 10 by 10, and the materials will be the same, but that may not always be the case. So we'll go ahead and let it update. The 10 by 10 is AM 312-5, revision A. And we're going to stay in grams. And since those are part of the custom and not the configuration, I would expect when I switch over and put that one in, all I will need to do is update the AM 312-6 and set my units to grams. All right, so I should see if I can make that a default. Make sure it saves, closes. Didn't update the views on all of them, so that means, or the color or the variation. So that means the material wasn't specified. So we will correct that. And the time to make those corrections is when you notice them, when you see them, and make sure that it gets taken care of. All right, so Control Tab, and we'll jump back into the drawing sheet. Now that I have my exploded isometric view, going to do the pull down since that is open. And I am looking for the isometric exploded view. That's a little small. and it is set to the sheet scale, so we'll stay with that, and I will make the change to half scale out of the sheet over on the status bar. All right, so right-clicking in the view, tables. We want a bill of materials. I'm not going to stay with the description. One of these times I will write the standard out. So we have the part number, but realistically, which one is that going to? So there we go. So it did pull up as a part number, but really that's the file name. All right, and the description, well, it was in caps. The description then would be my part number, and I would be looking to add the properties from the part number so that we end up with something that looks like that. All right, so that's not too bad. If I want to reuse that, then I'm going to do a save as, and it goes to the template, and then I got to remember where the template goes. So maybe I will go find my drive, put it in my fall, and this can be the bill of materials. All right, so at least I can get back to that and find it when I do the next one. We go into the annotations, set the balloon. Oh, actually I want to do the auto balloon. We'll line everything up to the left side and see what that looks like, so that's pretty good. And highlight, and then I can drag the magnet line. My graphics card is requiring a Control Q, which is a full rebuild to get rid of the ghost images. All right, so on this pass, I'm going to leave the dimensioning up to you, but on this pass, I'm going to create the views so that we can go through and get these built for the links. So drawing is the rocker assembly drawing. Let's go over, we did the view palette for the first one. Let's go back to the model view, and I will browse for the plate. And realistically, I need a front view. I'm going to create multiple views. So I need the front view, the right view, and an isometric. So the isometric could be a little bit smaller, and go to a custom size. We'll go back to 1 to 5. It might be a little too small, but we'll see what we get. 1 to 1's probably going to be a little too big. No, maybe not. All right, so my first pass on the drawings is typically to create the views, start thinking about the things that I want to include. And well, let's go back to the view palette, and I know I'm going back and forth, so let's see if we bring in the drive link. We'll go with front view. I don't know, it doesn't, neither one of those looks very interesting, the right view or the top view, so stay with it. It did not give me my center marks, so I would like those. And it shifted. All right, so the slot, it still sees it as a slot, but for the round. There we go. And it's okay, I guess that it leaves it in the center. We'll probably see that again. And if we stay with the view palette, then I will go to the link, and we are in the rocker link configuration. If you did not create the configurations, then keep in mind that we're just going to bring in the next part. So it still did that. Okay. Kind of strange, but I was expecting it. There we go. Expecting to add all of those. All right, so since I did all of that for the first, then I can copy and paste and move to end. Right, so that becomes pretty much the exact same thing, but it's going to be the center link. And then the next one will be the peg. So the peg, we could create a table since it's not that complicated. If I had the different configurations, I might set it as a default. So let's bring it in. I'm going to stay with the view palette, bring in the peg, and open. Bring in the front view. My main concern, let's see, we got the peg in the 10 by 15, is it's always a little on the difficult side to group up for the two sizes. So putting it on its own sheet, that's the current configuration. I might edit the sheet format, pull it out. The standard sheet format's not going to have that, so it's just a matter of how we want to manage that geometry. So if I highlight those two, Shift or select and Control Select, and then Control C and Control V, then I could come in and do 10 by 10. Let's see if we put that one up there and that one down there. Then I would want to create a note and grab the file properties for, I don't think I got that one assigned, so we'll see. Where is the configuration name? So since it grabbed that one, that is the sheet. So if I Control X, make sure that I've got that view, and then Control V, that one should go there. And then another Control V picks up the configuration for that one. All right, so it's not perfect, but it's okay. All right, so that gives me my sheets. I would probably rename, and if you don't have the I think it's the properties that's not there. You should have the rename. I will rename that to sheet 5, or we can come over to the property manager list, and must be a single click and single click. Wait for it to update. All right, so your next task, I'm going to finish here, and your next task will be to make another pass on the dimensions, and then we'll start to discuss start a discussion on tolerances that will be optional.